So, you want to be a games developer. You want to start developing games, you want to make games, but you're probably asking yourself, where do I begin with that? Now, if you've followed any of my other videos, you'll know that I like to develop games. I've got not a hell of a lot, I've got quite a few Unreal Engine 4 tutorials out there. But what I've not really touched on is how I got to Unreal Engine 4 from... well, I left school at 16, I did a manual labour job for a year, and now I'm here making games and stuff. So where is my where's my knowledge on this come from? Now, you don't need to do a college course to understand this. You don't need to go and pay for some kind of special course to get into this. You can really teach yourself everything you need at home. And I'm just in this video, I'm not going to go over how you do everything. I'm just going to show you a quick timeline of my game development timeline, how I got to where I am, and the platforms that I used to get here. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is Scratch. Now, Scratch is an unbelievably simple, fantastic way to get into programming as a whole, not even just making a game. I'm going to university in September, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, and I've actually looked at the course content, and Scratch is on there for a computer science course. It's powerful enough to be... It can be powerful, it can be simple. Scratch is what you make of it. Now, Scratch uses visual scripting the same as using Unreal Engine 4 blueprints. If we take a quick look here, now I have not used this in a long time, but when space is clicked, let's see, move 10 steps. So let's see what happens if we press play here. You see he moves 10 steps to the right. Now if we set that to negative, because you know that positive is on the right hand side of the screen, well, zero is in the top left, so positive would move him to the right, negative would move him to the left. So let's put that in negative 10 and press the green button again, and back he goes. So you see, you can play around with all this kind of stuff. You can add sound, you can make him say things, you can add inputs, you can make your own variables and stuff in there. Scratch is fantastic for starting out. It really is simple. Now, if you've never programmed before, if you've never made a game, if you've never done anything, I would really recommend that you just say to yourself, okay, this is going to be a long process. Let's start simple and start with something like Scratch. I'm going to show you again that I made in Scratch. Considering I've just finished the 7-day challenge thing and the kind of stuff I've pulled off in there, this is just awful in comparison. But at the end of the day, this is where I started. So I'll just quickly play this. And the goal here is to avoid those cannon things and, I'm going to stop this, it's embarrassing to play it. But basically, you move the thing, you shoot the cannons, and you hit the things and you get a score. I couldn't even program in a scoreboard. I made people comment at the bottom and tell me their score. And this was made by doing this. So when the right arrow's pressed, move in that direction. When left arrow's pressed, move in the other direction. Set your score to 0. Stop this script, and it's so simple. It really is nothing. That's it. That's the entire game, I think, right there, if I'm navigating this correctly. And these sprites were made in Paint, for goodness sake. So you really don't need a lot to start developing this. And what you'll learn is this is very fundamental stuff. Programming is not all about what code do you know. A lot of it's about fundamentals. So, for example, a fundamental of object-oriented programming is... Shit, my mind's gone entirely blank. I'll quickly skip over that point. There's fundamental stuff, and by learning it in Scratch, you'll really oh shit, okay. Let's stop that. Sorry. By learning in Scratch, you'll really start to get the idea of how these things go along. So I'll just hang up on that call there. So Scratch is a really good starting point. It's a really great way to start. Now, from Scratch, I decided, okay, this is cool, but I want to learn a language. So the next language I learned was something called Greenfoot. It's a derivative of Java. So Java is a very widely used platform, playable, use it on multiple platforms. It's really powerful. So what I'm going to quickly do here, I don't actually Java install, so hopefully I can open this. Now this is object-oriented programming. So these objects extend each other. So this start button here, this start button can affect things inside the counter. This is just a name thing, so that doesn't do anything. But all of these are objects. These all extend the actor class. These world all extend the world master class. you know, all of these are all classes that come together to make a game I call 666 Days in Hell. Cheesy, I know, but what I'm going to quickly do is quickly show you that to show you my first step to my second step. So I'll stop that there. So there you go. So that took me about a month to make, and that was really interesting to do. So I mean, I'll just jump into a class here and show you the kind of stuff that we got going on there. I did have some errors while playing that, but yeah, whatever. Can I open this? I don't even remember how to navigate this thing anymore. Let's see. If I should, no, that's not gonna work. Yeah, I've totally forgotten how to navigate Greenfoot. It has been a while since I've even touched this stuff. That would do that. Oopsie daisies. I am... Oh, inspect. No, not inspect. It's... Do you know what? Let's just put a class in here and then open that up and have a look. Hopefully it lets us open it. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so it's all laid out like this. Like it's the color scheme makes it easy to navigate. Sorry, let me hang up on that call again. The color scheme makes it easy to navigate there. And in Greenfoot, there's a ton of support on the Greenfoot forums. I got a lot of help from people like me, game developers on the forums that just you know happen to know the answers to my questions. There's a couple of guys in here, the developers of the actual I don't want to say language, I want to say platform, wrong word, development environment, IDE. So there's a lot of help on Greenfoot itself. The forums are really fantastic in helping you. So from Greenfoot, I actually moved over to Unity for about a day. I mashed together a landscape, changed the jump height to something really high, jumped around, decided this wasn't for me. Which is when soon thereafter I started to discover Unreal Engine, and since that became free, that has been my go-to thing. So I mean, even on in some respects, the game I made in Greenfoot is more advanced than any of the games I've ever made in Unreal Engine. And the reason for that is that Greenfoot required me to write all the code myself. I wrote all of these classes, the code in all of the classes, I wrote all of them and they worked together. In Unreal Engine, I snapped things together just like Scratch. So I know I said to start on Scratch, but you could theoretically start in Blueprint scripting. However, Scratch would give you a better understanding of how 2D space works, and once you understand 2D space, then 3D space is really easy to understand. So in case you've not seen any of my other videos and you're watching this the first time, and this is your first time on my channel, first of all, welcome to my channel. And second of all, we'll just quickly jump into Unreal Engine and show you that the final step, or my current step in my development of my games development history, games development timeline, whatever. So this is where I'm at now. I'm sure I'll move on to something else soon. I'm sure I'll do some other things. In fact, over the summer, I'm wanting to learn some C++ for this. Now, the reason for that being is C++ is an incredibly powerful language, and I can do so much more than I can with blueprints in C++. I just need to learn the language. So since Unreal's opened, we'll open up a blueprint and show you the kind of things you'll be working in there. Not this one. Let's open the first-person character here. So you can see here, basically we've got these things: input, action, fire, montage, play, spawn, projectile. And those are quite advanced, whereas in here, you know, it's when players think, open the next costume, wait a second, do the same thing again. Let's open up this kind of sprite thing. I've got set Y to, as it basically moves down the screen. We've got these things that move, touch the end of the wall and move back. You know, so these are blueprints in their own right, to be honest, but they are so simple compared to the way that Unreal Engine 4 does blueprints. I mean, Unreal Engine 4's blueprints can be really... I'm trying to find an example of something that's quite interesting in there. That was a really boring one. But you know, there's some stuff in here that has tons of nodes hooked up. You can do a lot in Unreal Engine. But Scratch is really where I would start. If you're looking to get into games development, I would go to the Scratch website, make a free account now, log in, have a play around with the visual scripting. When you feel comfortable with how that understands, set yourself a challenge in Greenfoot. Take a look at Greenfoot. Head on over to their website, download their development environment, have a play with that, see what you can make in there. Start learning some code. You'll start. Just a quick thing. Scratch isn't really object oriented. I don't believe I could pass a variable between, say, this sprite and this sprite. I'm not sure if that works. However, in Greenfoot, you absolutely can do object-oriented programming. If you don't know the difference between object-oriented, event-driven, procedural, just take a minute, read about them on Wikipedia or something. Object-oriented is really the way that games programming works. You're going to really want to understand how object-oriented programming works, how classes can pass variables between each other, how everything's kind of self-contained in its own class and often its own world, and classes can be multiple instances of classes can be available in the same thing. It's a really interesting thing, and once you kind of understand that through Greenfoot, fire up Unreal Engine, go and get their free download, play around with some of the tutorials first. Now, what I recommend doing is, as soon as you get into Unreal Engine, it's going to be like, whoa, so much stuff. It's not a simple thing. There's just stuff everywhere. Just play with it, break it, fix it, just play with it. I mean, okay, so you open up this blueprint, you're like, okay, what about if I was to change the value of this gun offset here to something like 100 up here instead of a 33? If I compile that and hop in the game, what does that do? Well, now instead of the ball firing out of my hands, you notice it fires off to the right. So you can start to understand how these variables all affect everything and what they're doing. And then you can start to read this. Reading code is also another, well, not even just code. Reading your programs is another really important thing in being a games programmer. If you notice the variables in here, they're named correctly, basically. Gun offset. He could have called that new variable 1. It would have still worked, but it doesn't explain what variables are doing. These comments, the programmer of the demonstration didn't need to say that this spawns the projectile, that this makes you jump. You know, it would still work, but leaving comments and things, making your code readable. It's strange, this only really clicked for me recently, but programming in a language is just like any other language in the world. It's like, if you can, you know, when you can read and write it, you understand that language. Now, code is no different to a foreign language to you. It's just something you need to learn. It's just something, can you read it? Can you follow it along? It's like reading a book, except these books don't go from page to page. That's procedural programming. In object-oriented programming, you start on page 1, you get halfway down, it says, okay, call something over on page 3. You jump to page 3, what did it call? It calls something back over on page 2 again. You read that class finishes, you go head on back to page 1, what's the next thing? You know, so you start to really read these things and learn your way through. I know that's not an Unreal Engine 4 tutorial, I know that's not really relevant to anything that's been going on my channel recently. However, I have wanted to make that for a while. I have wanted to make this video showing my personal timeline from being an absolute amateur with this stuff to, I'm not really one to toot my own horn, but I'm quite impressed with the game that I've just made under the 7-day challenge. It's not good, it's not perfect, but it's you know, it's a game. It works. I'm quite happy with it. So there's my timeline. If you're wanting to get into games development, this worked for me. You may find something else that works for you. There are a ton of game development things out there. RPG Maker allows you to edit scripts. There's Oracle, no, not Oracle. Yes, Oracle. No, Eclipse. That's the one. Not Oracle. Eclipse is a Java-based language, somewhat similar to Greenfoot. You can work in Microsoft Visual Studio, make an event-driven game. It's not the proper way to do it, but you can make games in event-driven. I have done that too. I may even have an awful example of one of those somewhere, but I guess I'll leave that for another day. So yeah, there's Greenfoot, Unreal Engine. Unity may be your thing. It just wasn't my thing. Hey, download Unity. Play with these engines. Play with them. Try them out. See what you like about them. Really, it's all about trial and error. About you understanding what you're doing, reading things, learning things, playing with things, making and breaking things. So I'm going to wrap that video up there. As I said, Scratch, Greenfoot and Unreal Engine 4 were my 3 big steps. I'll leave links to all of them in the description. I hope this video helps you guys get on your way to becoming fantastic games developers. I'd love to see some of your progress through Scratch and Greenfoot even. I'm not even, you know, show me all of your progress. Leave your comments, links to your description, links to your things in there. If you want to play my game, the Greenfoot one, you can head on over to greenfoot.org. You can search up Trieste95 or you can search up 666 Days in Hell. You should have Java installed. I don't. You don't want to get Java, and you can play that in the browser. Put your scores down there in the comments or whatever. This has been Totally Unreal, guys. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care till then.